Every writer has some process that allows them to create. Whether they're creating a poem, birthday letter, just because note, or the dreaded essays that come as a hazard of furthering your education. My process is a network connected by pathways that carry my message to certain key pit stops within my body, which include my brain, heart, and hand. My brain is the first stop in the production process. I hear thousands of words every day that sound beautiful. Whether I hear the words from a TV show that I'm binge watching on Netflix, the words reverberate in my head as I read a book, or am mutely following along to my teacher's lessons. Admittedly, only a select amount of words settle themselves in the space between my ears. These words tend to be the topics that I find intriguing, thoughtful, inspirational, or something that should be elaborated on for better understanding. Sometimes these words become way too muddled and I need to clear this space for better thinking. This results in a form of word vomit, in which I write everything down in an organized hurry on a piece of paper, with hopes that these thoughts will be documented before I forget them. From this scrabbling note-keeping, I focus on what exactly I am trying to say, stringing together a conscious strain of thought, and then adding detail to the concept using the impactful, motivating, or informative words that are still in my head as a way to emphasize my idea. The thoughts that reside in my head and the words that accumulate alongside them don't always stay in my head for myself to continuously mull over. These strings of consciousness tend to travel to the second key organ in my writing process, the heart. Sappy, I know, but bear with me. It is here that my words find their inspiration. Who do I write for? What is my purpose within what I'm writing? Where is my motivation for speaking out coming from? When I think of who I write for, I know that I write for those important to me and have made a lasting impression. My mom, dad, grandpa, brother, and friends motivate me to write on a daily basis, and it is for them that I write. I write because my grandpa cannot find himself expressible in his own writing, and I help him to find his own voice. I write for my parents because they could admire even the cheesy poems that I wrote when I was 7 and couldn't spell, let alone rhyme. I write for my brother so that he can be educated on what is going on around him and learn to place himself in the perspective of others. I write for my friends to make our adventures immortal so that I can continuously look back. Most importantly, though, I write for myself. I write for my sanity, for the decluttering of my mind, for peace, for awareness, and for the simple joy of creating. So now that we know why, let's address the what. The influences of my ideas for writings come from experiences, both good and bad, that have made lasting impressions on how I function and see the world around me. Admittedly, the what varies substantially, whether it is a 7-page paper at the end of a semester for a class, a grocery list, a birthday card, a prose topic, or a story that I've been dying to get off my chest. In these aspects, writing to me means everything mundane, magical, and in between. Writing is influence, power, therapy, and sometimes sanity. Now that we have followed the thoughts that began as scrambled words into my head to their meaning or purpose, how do these messages reach the outside world? The last stop in my writing process is the mechanism by which I communicate most effectively, my hand. It makes sense for this to be the final stop, because as the words leave the tip of my pencil on the paper, they have finally reached an audience, whether it varies from my 68-year-old professor in suspenders reading my 7-page paper, or my 4-year-old cousin in her birthday party dress reading the homemade birthday card that I made for her. The mechanisms by which my hand writes I learned from my 10th grade English teacher, such as metaphors, similes, and very overdramatic phrases that seem to confuse others, yet make perfect sense to me. The actual style of my writing was more intuitive than taught, and sometimes I'm even amazed at what my hand produces when I give it creative freedom. After following my writing process, it's easy to see that my personal self and my writer self are deeply intertwined. Without my own personal interest in the addition of a purpose or motivator, my work doesn't feel like my own, and then becomes something that I can't wait to get over with and done. But when my personal self and writer self cooperate with one another, and the jumbled words in my head become a logical sentence, I see myself smiling as I'm writing, enjoying the moment where it all comes together. Writing to me means a chance of expression when verbal words seem too difficult. Writing provides the opportunity to sway an audience, make them giggle, challenge them, or to leave them with an impression of me that would have remained silent without the volume of the written word. As a writer, I become a silent force of nature, one that can destroy a mountain of ideologies or set afire a brush of ideas. I can paint a picture just as beautiful as the sunset, and maybe even paint with all the colors of the wind, if I'm channeling my inner Disney princess and if I'm feeling a bit adventurous.